I'm not seeing too much of Elenbogen's deck this weekend. Had a lot of looks at Max McVety, Clay Spicklemire as well. This is going to be our first time here watching Modern for this team. Been a while since we had Ketter, Hoogland, and VanMeter on camera. Remember, despite both of them being former Players' Championship competitors and having many top 8s, Ken Ketter and Jeff Hoogland, neither of them have ever held up the trophy at the end of a weekend.
Yeah, they definitely want to be winning this match and putting a few more W's in the elimination rounds.
Both players here starting on creature lands, and we'll get our first look across with a Thoughtseize turn 2 on Jeff Hoogland. On Elenbogen's side, we see 2 copies of Scalding Tarn. We see 2 copies of Opt. Search for Azcanta, Snapcaster Mage, and Cryptic Command.
And this is exactly what you don't want to see with a Thoughtseize deck. There is just 3 very high-impact cards there. Search for Azcanta, Snapcaster Mage, Cryptic Command, and then 2 Ops that make it so it's easy for Elenbogen to find whatever he wants at the end of this.
It's going to take Snapcaster Mage, leaves Andrew the potential for that turn 2 search, and it makes more sense as you see Field of Ruin now from Jeff Hoogland.
You limit the efficacy of the Azcanta, the Sunken Rune, if you can't get into a position to ever really activate it. I guess the Field of Ruin, generally you get at most 1 activation, though Elenbogen at least gets to use it to filter his draw steps.
And Hoogland was hoping to hit that 3rd land here. He has on a mulligan to 6 to make one of his 2 copies of Liliana of the Veil. He does not, however, and as a result just gets a 3/4 Tarmogoyf.
It looks like he does have his 1 Abrupt Decay in hand as well. That's a very easy answer to the search for Azcanta, though currently can't cast it. His 2nd land is Field of Ruin.
Yeah, his hand is Abrupt Decay, 2 Lilianas, and an Assassin's Trophy. So between Decay, Trophy, Field of Ruin, this Azcanta is not a huge concern.
Right.
What is the concern, though, is there are these missing land drops.
Yes.
Let's see if Jeff hits a land. He does not. Swings in, though, for 3. And it looks like from Elenbogen we're going to see Opt. Can he hit Terminus? And he can! Here's a Miracle Terminus.
Okay.
Fair magic right there.
That's not bad.
Scavenging Ooze was the draw for Hoogland.
Oh, look at that missed value. Yeah, Elenbogen could have gotten 2 creatures. Don't think he's very concerned about the Scavenging Ooze, though.
No, in Elenbogen's yard, I believe that's actually 6 cards. I think we have something hiding out under the Terminus. So search for Azcanta, threatening to transform here. And Opt will certainly make it transform if you'd like it to. And it's another Terminus. No. I already drew a card this turn. That's no good.
Yeah, that would be an interesting card to be looking at there, just because casting Terminus for 6 is honestly kind of good in this matchup in a number of spots, especially if you can set it up with the Jace the Mind Sculptor.
It looks like the card was Jace that he put on top, and I actually like this. He can transform, search, Jace, unsummon, and I don't really know how Jeff comes back from that.
That is a productive turn, and then once he starts untapping, he has Cryptic Command at the ready.
I like everything about that play. He chooses to draw that top card, transforms, and he's got something else in mind as he drew Lightning Bolt. He'll just say go. Hoogland draws Fatal Push. This is looking pretty bad for the Golgari deck.
Leaving up Cryptic Command leaves you a clean answer to Jeff doing something like just casting Liliana of the Veil on his turn, so that's reasonable. And if with Lightning Bolt, you can just answer the Scavenging Ooze very easily.
And that is what Elenbogen will do. And draws for the turn. Now on a completely clear board, it is time for Jace the Mind Sculptor. Andrew will brainstorm, wants to make those land drops, so Jace will draw him 2 additional lands.
I think a lot of players would be inclined to +2 the Jace and try to stop Jeff from drawing lands, but lands are just so common that it's pretty reasonable that Jeff just has 2 on top of the deck, and it's hard to go wrong brainstorming.
You know, and I said that before. We always watch, the Shaheen Saranis when we have them on the tour here, where Jace is a Planeswalker with 1 ability, where he just zeroes it every time, and I like that kind of play style to beat with the card, honestly. Hoogland misses the land drop again, and in the face of the Jace, he will pick up the cards.
I mean, one-sided Howling Minds are already powerful.
Yeah.
And then making one of them a Brainstorm, it's just, that's nonsense.
Elenbogen, the first game win in the match, 1-0 up on Jeff Hoogland as we look over at the sideboards. Let's look through what Jeff has for the matchup.
Yeah, so he has in the sideboard 2 Duress, 2 Languish, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Surgical Extraction, 2 Nihil Spellbomb, 2 Nissa Vital Force, a Dismember, a Collective Brutality, and a Maelstrom Pulse. The extra discard spells are going to help him fight through a lot of the more powerful elements of the Jeskai control deck. So these duresses to deal with Jason the Mind Sculptor, Cryptic Command, what have you. Collective Brutality as more insurance against Cryptic Commands. Surgical is medium. You can kind of blank a Snapcaster Mage. I like the Nile Spell Bombs quite a lot more for that purpose. They can also push back on Search for Azcanta, which is why that one is more likable. I imagine that this is going to be the matchup that the Nissa Vital Forces are for. It's just a big haymaker that you can cast. It applies pressure with haste. You get to make that 5/5 attacker right away. The Emblem's really good in the matchup. It's a source of card advantage over time, and even the -3 to get back threats is quite powerful.
Do you like cards like Collective Brutality against Andrew's deck?
I like them well enough. If you have them exactly on turn 2, hitting a Cryptic Command it's about the ceiling, but that is a pretty good effect.
Now on Andrew's side, 3 Stony Silence, 3 copies of Ancestral Vision, 2 Dispel, 2 Vendilion Click, a Spell Queller, Surgical Extraction, Negate, Engineered Explosives, and a 3rd Lightning Helix.
The Ancestral Visions are quite good in any kind of grindy matchup. Those seem definitely strong here. The copy of Negate gives you more of a plan against Liliana of the Veil, so I do like that one a good amount, and that'll also come in handy against Jeff bringing in these Nissa Vital Forces, and the Engineered Explosives deals with almost every threat out of Hoogland's deck, so that one's kind of a shoe-in.
Yeah. Now, those of you watching us for the first time over here on the SCG Tour, we have our Twitch subscription program, so you can join us in the feature match area. If you're a subscriber to this channel, after the end of this round, we are going to go ahead and post the bracket for top 8. You will get a vote as to the players and decks you'd like to see. You can do that just in the chat right here over on the side. Make sure, though, you are subscribing by this round, twitch.tv/SCG Tour.
A lot of sweet decks this weekend. You're going to want your pick out what we get to see. Tons of new standard action. We'll see if maybe Jeff Hoogland can squeak in with this Golgari mid-range deck. I know this deck's going to be getting a lot of buzz in Modern.
And I actually do, Ryan, I said that there were 5 spots in top 8 locks. There's a chance actually here, looking at standings a little bit more. We have 6. The team of Jody Keith, Collins Mullen, and Todd Stevens. They weren't able to draw in, but with a loss, it looks like they're actually still going to make top 8. So just having that advantage on the field means we're really playing for 2 spots. But one of them is that a win here is a must for Ketter, Hoogland, and VanMeter.
Yeah.
To that effect, Chris VanMeter is going to even things up. He takes a game off Max McVety. That's been pretty uncommon this weekend.
Right, let's see if he can take a full match. I don't know how many people have done that in this tournament.
Yeah, at least one. In their first match, they said their first match loss over in round 13. Max McVety did say he lost his undefeated streak in that.
Well, they at least have a top 8 berth here.
That's for sure. With a win, they will be the 1 seed. With a loss, they will be the 3 seed.
Okay, so plus or minus 1 from their current 2nd place?
Correct.
That's a pretty easy gamble to make. No matter what, you're on the play in your quarterfinal matchup. First seed is definitely better than 3rd seed, though.
Yeah.
Especially in these team events. Got 3 matches going on. It's a big deal.
Yeah. And final game 1 completes Clay Spicklemire on Grixis Delver. Going to take a game off Grixis control. We've been seeing, this is not the first time we've seen Clay in that Grixis mirror win with it on the Delver side of things.
Yep.
He says he likes the matchup quite a bit.
His 2 main deck Bitter Blossoms definitely help a lot in that matchup. I think if you resolve that on turn 2, many of the games are just over.
We see turn 1 Thoughtseize from Hoogland. We're going to take a look. It is Snapcaster Mage, Path to Exile. Looks like 4 lands. And then we got 1 card hiding over there. It's the 4th down. Or 5th down, rather.
Looks like it might be a Logic Knot. I'm not seeing a lot of the card, but I think I'm getting stronger and stronger inclination that it's a Logic Knot.
It's going to take Snapcaster Mage.
It is. Nailed it.
All right, so Snapcaster Mage is taken. So Andrew's hand is a Path to Exile, a Logic Knot, and 4 lands.
These are fine holdings.
You're fine. That beatable though on the Golgari side of things.
Yeah, the spells don't look to amount to much, but the thing that's really like about the hand for Elenbogen is that it's a lot of lands.
Yeah.
He'll be able to cast whatever spells he draws.
We'll see if Jeff can punch a hole. Tarmogoyf here, I like quite a bit. Already a 3/4. You know, Elenbogen's either committing to taking a bunch of damage or to Path to Exiling it. I think Jeff will be okay with either of those.
Got to figure on this turn, Elenbogen will spend a short window leaving up Logic Knot for a potential Liliana of the Veil and then Path to Exiling later. He'll take a hit there, but that doesn't matter as much against the Golgari mid-range deck. That would be a bigger deal against Jund, where they have Lightning Bolts, Bloodbraid Elves.
Andrew will shock down to 18 and pass the turn. That was off Steam Vents. Tasigur, the draw for Hoogland.
Two copies of Tasigur in the deck this week.
And a swing in for 3, Andrew to 15, and then Hoogland will play Treetop Village.
I do like Tasigur as an element to this deck. He's playing 4 Tireless Trackers, and Tasigur, this is a deck that's going to activate that card and generate some value with it.
Jeff then cast Scavenging Ooze. He was hoping to get that Logic Knot with it. Because Elenbogen picked up Lightning Bolt, he just plays both his 1-mana removal spells and clears the board.
Huge payoff for shocking for that Steam Vents. He only had the Logic Knot that Hoogland knew about, but he was able to convert Path on the Goyf, Lightning Bolt on the Scavenging Ooze, and now he has a graveyard that's pretty large to work with that Logic Knot.
Yeah, he was able to really disguise what his hand was up to. Going back over to Elenbogen, he has that Logic Knot. He has picked up since a copy of Search for Azcanta. Kind of talking over with Clay Spicklemire about this turn. Whether he needs to leave up Logic Knot for a possible play, or whether he can get away with Search.
When you have Search and Snapcaster Mage, there's definitely that argument to keep cards in your graveyard. You don't always want to do too much delving with the Logic Knot.
Yeah, I think specifically he's just not comfortable taking down Logic Knot, especially when on turn 4 he can do both. He just makes a fetch land here and passes.
Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Back over to Hoogland we go. Tasigur, Tarmogoyf, 2 copies of Liliana. He's going to start with Goyf, and this makes sense. If it gets countered, he can cast Tasigur.
Right, yeah. When you know about the 1 counter spell, setting up a turn where you can cast 2 spells is the best way to play around that.
And the fun part is that if this doesn't get countered, and this was kind of the worst case scenario for Hoogland, he was if it got countered, he'd have enough delve for Tasigur. Instead, he makes Tarmogoyf, Andrew says resolves, and then end step Path to Exiles it. So it's not... Jeff didn't make too much progress here.
Right. He's in a position where next turn, because of the Path to Exile, he can Liliana of the Veil into Tasigur. Kind of the problem with that is that he's using his better spell as the test spell. Liliana of the Veil is more powerful than Tasigur in this matchup.
Right, so what'll happen is he'll get the Logic Knot. That'll get countered. Then he'll make Tasigur, and Andrew will untap with 4 lands, search for Azcanta, and all he has to do is find a way to deal with Tasigur. That seems pretty doable. Right,
and when you compare Tasigur to Tarmogoyf, it actually is answered by a few more things, just because how poor Tasigur is against Cryptic Command, Jace the Mind Sculptor, getting returned to your hand. If you have to double away your graveyard, it's really tough to recast the card.
Back over to Elenbogen we go. He shocks again. This time down to 12. And yeah, just setting up Search plus Logic Knot, and Hoogland knows it.
Yep. And again, you see this advantage on the Jeskai side of things in this matchup as opposed to playing against Jund. Elenbogen can play with his life total. He's shocked for 4 lands. In situations where he won't necessarily use that mana because he's very comfortable doing it.
Logic Knot's down the Liliana, and Jeff follows up with Tasigur. And these are just kind of things that over the last year I think have made this matchup good for Jeskai. The fact that this Search for Azcanta was a 2-mana card that's going to be Andrew's win con. 2 years ago, Jeskai didn't do that.
Right.
And we'll see Nissa Vital Force. Okay, big check for Cryptic Command here.
Right, and I believe Elenbogen is down to just 1 card in hand, so if he missed on this draw step, he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Andrew's looking at the graveyard. Snapcaster Mage would work here too. It looks like Opt is what he's going to cast.
Which means he can't be searching for Cryptic Command.
No, and he's reading Nissa. Just how bad is it if this resolves?
Very. It's very bad.
So it's 5 damage, or Hoogland regrows a card.
Yeah, well, he exiled his graveyard, so it's 5 damage.
Okay, so this would be a swing for 9. Ooh.
And then next turn, it either threatens more damage or just that emblem, which is a big problem over time.
Scry to the bottom of Opt for Elenbogen, a draw, and it is Terminus.
That's fine.
We needed to wait until the Nissa +1. No, that's not true at all.
Yeah, you wanted to find Logic Knot. It's a little awkward that he found Terminus. At least he dealt with the Tasigur.
So Nissa pluses to 6. She'll untap a land. Jeff can swing in for 5. Elenbogen down to 7.
Resolved Planeswalkers are a pretty big problem for the Jeskai deck. pretty high pressure on Elenbogen to produce exactly Teferi on this turn, just to push that Planeswalker down.
And I remember one thing that I'm becoming relevant, and you've said before that you really like out of Golgari, is that it gets to play so many copies of the card Treetop Village.
Yep.
In this game, that even if Andrew can clear the board, say Teferi -3, Jeff's got a Treetop hanging out.
Right. It's so efficient to activate an attack with that one. Jeff is very likely to be able to fire up the Treetop Village and cast some other spell on the following turn.
Andrew playing off the top of the deck. He's debating that Search for Azcanta trigger.
Something like a Cryptic Command would give a lot of pause because you can do something like bounce the Liliana, but it's just not enough on its own.
We found a card he likes. It's Jace the Mind Sculptor. Brainstorm. No, but he's dead on board unless he finds something, a removal spell here, right? Nissa plus Treetop?
Digging for Path to Exile, it seems.
It's interesting. He's played 2 Paths and 1 Bolt, but yet he's digging for Path to Exile instead of Lightning Bolt. It's possible he's boarded out some of the bolts. Maybe there's more paths left than there are bolts.
The paths tend to enter more threats. I would definitely believe that. It's a Tarmogoyf Tassiger deck.
That said, Jeff can get around all of this. If he wants to, he can cast Liliana of the Veil, plus it, then make the play. But Jeff's going to go ahead and instead do Mana Preserving here. Swings, and Andrew didn't have either.
And really just getting Path in that spot's not even that big of a cost for Jeff.
Yeah, is there a reason there that Jeff doesn't want to jam Liliana first just to clear out the card?
His last card must be good.
Okay. That would make sense. Either way, he's evened things up at 1 apiece. See now, the entire match here even. On the side tables, we have some 1-0s as these two head into the 3rd game.
Yeah, things even.
Yeah. And in that matchup, that's what I think I'm looking for out of the Golgari deck is some early board presence.
Yes.
It does feel like once Jeskai gets going, it's going to run away.
Right, and that's kind of the advantage that the Green-Black Axe, Golgari, John would have you try to eke out in these matchups is getting online early with Tarmogoyf. When that's answered, hitting supplemental threats at every point on the curve, and this is really the matchup that I assume that Nissa Vital Force is in the sideboard for. And it's really great at serving that role, especially against a Path to Exile deck where they're ramping you up and you can cast that Nissa ahead of schedule.
All right, and for Elenbogen, he's going to need to get this 3rd game. Over on the standard table, we do see McVety picking up a loss. 2-0, he's defeated by Chris VanMeter. So Ketter and Hoogland both looking for that first trophy. If they want it, one of them's going to have to come through here to get them into the top 8.
Yeah, Ketter's going to need to win too. For Hoogland, just one deciding game here. Strategy that Spicklemire, Elenbogen, and McVety have employed to this point in the tournament is that when Max finishes his match, he usually just walks away because he has no insights on the machinations of Jeskai control, and he believes he's more likely to give away information than to help out, though he's sticking around this time.
Well, for now, it's getting near lunchtime.
That's true.
Can never be too sure on that.
He'll see something intriguing in the distance and wander off at some point.
Game number 3, players contemplating their opening 7s. Elenbogen going to be on the play here and decides to confirm with Clay Spicklemire.
Yeah, not asking the player who's not playing a match because Max just has no clue. He doesn't know about Jeskai.
I mean, there's lightning bolts in Jeskai. Max
That's true. Can you go upstairs with this one? And that's another card for Search for Azcanta, I think. Elenbogen does not like this hand.
That's the look of he's going to keep it too, That's that look where it's like, oh, I'm going to keep this, aren't I?
He's talking himself
I hate
into
that
it.
I'm going to keep this. It's the worst.
Is it like a 6
Oh, man, I'm going to lose with this, and then I'm going to be like, oh, I kept a bad one. And they both kept. Just called it.
The post-game conversation. Well, I thought about mulliganing.
Turn 1 okay, turn 1 Ancestral Vision. If you're contemplating on turn 1 Ancestral Vision this matchup, I'm
going to set the line at Elenbogen's hand being 4.5 lands. Over or under?
Or 1.
Okay. One's the alternative.
I think 1's the alternative.
We get to see.
Duress.
All right. Oh, okay. There's a lot of fours.
Cryptic Jace, Snapcaster, land, visions.
Not a very dressable hand anyway, but Elenbogen's going to need some lands.
I'm not even tanking that long. I'm keeping this.
Yeah,
I'm too greedy.
This is a very fine hand. I understand the frustration with it. The vision does not help you make a third land drop.
I mean, yeah.
And this deck needs to make a fourth land drop.
You're right. Okay, so like Tarmogoyf into Lily will just run you out of the room, right?
Like, if you turn that Jace into a land, this hand is actually just dramatically better and, like, extremely keepable. Yeah,
the problem is Andrew would like to draw a Path to Exile, and he'd like to draw another land, and he gets 1 draw per turn. So, you know, there's some things to be desired.
Right.
But if Jeff's hand's reactive, this hand is going to clobber him.
Search for his Kanta off the top would be excellent.
Looks like he
drew Celestial Colonnade.
Great.
That's a big deal.
Great. Any land was big.
That gives him 2 more looks at setting up into 4th land. If he draws something like Opt or even a Path to Exile is good against most of Jeff's deck.
Now, Hoogland does have Tarmogoyf. It is a 2-3 at the moment. Ketter wins game number 2, so going to 3 over there as well. For Elenbogen, plays that 3rd land we know about. Don't know if he has the 4th just yet.
Yeah, Snapcaster Mage, 2 Cryptic Commands, and an Unknown. Generally pretty good holdings.
Hoogland plays Verdant Catacombs. There's not a land in the graveyard yet, so that's a pump being threatened. And here's Thoughtseize from Hoogland. Snapcaster, Cryptic.
Pretty Thoughtseize proof.
I
probably just take a Cryptic Command. The Snapcaster Mages aren't getting good anytime soon.
Yeah, there's nothing that they play with in the graveyards. And yeah, if Elenbogen draws a 4th untapped land, I think land into running Cryptics is how you lose. But Jeff's going to go the other way. He'll take a Snapcaster.
If his hand is creature heavy, a Path to Exile to go with those Snapcaster Mages is a big deal, though the second one doesn't really contribute to that.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes sense if he has another Thoughtseize here, which he might.
Right.
Pumps Tarmogoyf up to 4-5. Creature, Planeswalker, Sorcery, Land, and Tarmogoyf cracks in, Andrew down to 14. No, Jeff got a land tapped off that, so...
He was just putting a land to the graveyard for the Goyf there.
Yeah.
He has a Tasigur in hand, though that does not play too great with the Tarmogoyf, and he's a little shy on mana and cards in graveyard this turn. We're ticking towards that vision.
Yeah, upkeep is going to go down to 1. Now, Andrew is taking some heat from this Tarmogoyf. It's gotten him down to 13 right now.
Ooh, Path to Exile picked up. That's not a bad one. He still has 1 Snapcaster Mage to pair with it as well.
What I do like is Jeff just drew Inquisition of Kozilek.
So Elenbogen is going to cast Path and Snapcaster Mage. It's...
Well, he doesn't have the 4th land.
I know. You shut off. He's just casting a 2-1.
Okay. Yeah, so Jeff still gets some value out of this. He doesn't get a card. Well, he kind of gets a card. He gets the Flashback Graveyard card.
Right. But then Ancestral Vision comes off Suspend.
Yeah, the problem is it's coming off Suspend. Jeff doesn't have a creature in play. That card is for this matchup.
Yeah, Tasigur is definitely coming down this turn. At least I have to figure. But then Elenbogen gets a lot of looks at an answer.
Inquisition for, that's play. Put Snapcaster into play. It's 2 Cryptics. Tasigur is fully delved. But you even mentioned one of the weaknesses of Tasigur in this matchup is Cryptic Command.
Right. Cast a spell, okay, I'll bounce that one. Counter your spell, bounce your Tasigur.
Yeah, I'll say maybe Andrew doesn't hit a land here off these 4 cards, but he hit exactly 1.
1 lets him play, and lets him play in a big way.
Yeah. Search for Azcanta to Fairy picked up, Opt picked up, and a land picked up.
I don't think he can do anything other than leave up Cryptic on this turn, especially because he has 2 Cryptics. Just the upside of it is so high. Getting the search going is nice, but double Cryptic Command will get him somewhere. If he just leaves those up, the floor is Hoogland cast no spells, you bounce Tasigur and draw a card.
So if that's your line, and Jeff just says activate Village, swing 7, are you committed to taking a full 7 to stop him from playing a card?
If he activates Village, I might tap his creatures.
Okay. I mean, I think I'd take 4 to make that play for sure.
Yeah. Take 7 does change the texture a little bit. Because he can take 7, I think is part of the argument against going for the search on this turn.
Sure. Yeah, he would take, just say go. We'll see how much damage he's willing to take to hold up Cryptic. Jeff's hand's not great. It's Trophy, Land, Land. I go with Did Assassin's Trophy change the matchup? Not this game. Does not look particularly good here.
No. If the Cryptic command is cast with only one mode that involves targeting a permanent, Jeff can Assassin's Trophy that permanent. Now, the best possible would be Elenbogen bouncing his own Snapcaster Mage.
Okay.
But there's not a second mode he could do that only has... If it's like that plus draw a card or that plus tap the creatures, but...
Yeah, so I've heard something, about going back to that trophy argument for a second. Players were asking, well, it's pretty good against Teferi. Here's a situation where Andrew does have a Teferi in hand. Jeff has a trophy. The problem is, that's just not... if that interaction happens, Andrew's already won.
It's just... If you think about it for more than the half second that Trophy is targeting Teferi, it's not good against Teferi.
Yeah.
The Teferi's already drawn a card. The player who's playing Snapcaster Mage Cryptic Command drums up an extra land. It's actually pretty bad against Teferi.
Yeah. Well, here's an attack just for 4. And I like this. Andrew, not even a chump block. He'll just take it.
Yep.
Great. And Jeff will use the ability on Tassiger and mills 2 lands. Means he does not get a card.
Well, it's 2 cards in the graveyard for delving, but yeah, missing on a spell there is a bummer.
So the upside is after Cryptic bounces the Tassiger, we can recast it for a little bit less.
Yeah. It ain't pretty.
Yeah. Playing trophy mana does Hoogland. Now Elenbogen is going to get to fight. Yeah, one of those Cryptics is going to be fired off here. What modes would he like?
It's pretty attractive to bounce the Tassiger and draw a card.
Yeah.
Especially given that if he tries to bounce his Snapcaster Mage, then there's not really a cost to trophying the Snapcaster.
Right. I mean, Jeff could counter this by trophying the Tasker, but that's ridiculous.
Right, yeah, there is a cost to that.
Andrew down to 8 off a fetch there, so he will draw. Looks like he drew into Lightning Bolt. Draws Logic Knot.
Yeah, this is all good stuff.
Yeah, but no land. Still no land, and that's...
Because the Lightning Bolt answers the village and he gets to leave up Logic Knot on top of it, I think he's just fine.
I agree. He looks like he's going to go for... He's confident enough that he can go for Search for Azcanta here. That means he can Logic Knot and just take... He's willing to take 3 from the village even.
Yeah, I mean, he's not getting Lightning Bolted. 8 and 5 are not really different numbers.
Now
the numbers are 1, greater than 1, and 0.
There may be a Collective Brutality picked up, though, for Hoogland.
Yeah, that gets a look at that Cryptic command. The thing about it, I mean, you could take Lightning Bolt and shove with the Treetop Village this turn, but then Elenbogen starts on tapping with access to Cryptic command. That's never a good position to be in.
We'll see what he does. Here is Collective Brutality from Hoogland. He could escalate it with the fetch land to burn Andrew for 2. I actually don't mind that play. 6 is 2 village hits.
Yeah. The land isn't doing anything either.
Yeah.
He's kind of building up to 2 Tassiger activations, but I just don't see the game going that way.
He did not escalate it. It's just the duress effect. So we see Opt, Logic Knot, Teferi, Bolt, Cryptic. Can't take Teferi.
I mean, Teferi is the highest power card. It's the one he can't take. All the rest of the stuff is actually fairly interchangeable, Opt being the worst card. Lightning Bolt, clean answer to Treetop Village. He could clear the Logic Knot, which would allow him to resolve Tassiger this turn, but then he's still just playing Tassiger into Cryptic Command, which answers it fairly clearly. And if Elenbogen just hits a land, he gets a Teferi, and that's even worse for Hoogland.
Yeah, the Logic Knot is a hard counter. It's tough. I'm not sure I can be convinced to take much else.
It's pretty much Knot or Cryptic Command. The Knot lets him Tassiger this turn, though. Again, I don't know how far that gets him.
Agreed. It's not great. There's not much that's great here. Hoogland's going to delve and make the 4-5. If I'm in Andrew's spot, I'm pretty happy here that I didn't take any damage that turn.
Yeah.
Opt from Andrew. I think escalating... There was a line there, if you escalated it to... And it wasn't countered... to take Lightning Bolt, swing with Treetop Village, and say go. Which...
It's something.
It's something. Maybe that's too much. Maybe that never works.
It's more pressure than this.
Yeah.
I think the final point in the argument for me is just that the extra land doesn't seem like it's going to matter, and that's why I would have escalated.
A transform for Search for Escanta from Andrew, and then he miracles a Terminus and casts a Teferi. Just all sorts of good things going on.
Untaps his land for the Lightning Bolt on that Treetop Village.
Sure. Oh, yeah, you're right. He has the 1-mana card. Both players know about it. And that's just the point, right? Hey, Assassin's Trophy's here for that Teferi. That means Andrew will get another land, which we will then use to activate this Escanta every turn, and it will not matter at all.
Right. Might be slightly different if Hoogland had also produced a Field of Ruin and you get an answer for both of those permanents, but that's just not the game we're playing.
Thoughtseize shows Cryptic Command, Lightning Bolt, and a land.
I mean, Cryptic Command. So the argument for taking Lightning Bolt is that the Treetop Village can start coming across.
And that's the only threat he has anymore.
But Elenbogen also just has that covered just by leaving back Celestial Colonnade going forward. So it's mostly just that he gets in one shot this turn.
I actually like this play, as much as it seems awful to leave the Cryptic Command. So the other line, you're going to have nobody has anything except Andrew has an Escanta. That's a pretty hard board to win. If you're telling me that this board's easier to win, I think I can believe it. They're both pretty bad. On this board, you get 5/3 damage. You hope to top deck Field of Ruins. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. You get in this damage here. The Treetop Village, maybe you convert it. It's just so hard to beat Cryptic Command from 0.
Yeah. Yeah, so you have to either beat Cryptic Command. You can have a Treetop Village and you have to beat Cryptic Escanta, or you have to beat or you can have nothing and just try to beat Escanta.
Well, it's Treetop Village versus Colonnade Escanta Cryptic Command.
These both sound terrible.
Yeah, it's a real lose-lose scenario, it seems.
I think if I was playing Jund, this line is for sure right.
Yeah.
Because then I can bolt them.
Set up for Bolt, Bloodbraid Elf, what have you.
Yeah. Oof. Andrew drawing for the turn. At this point, it's hard for him to find a bad draw.
Yeah, just more mana's good.
Yeah.
Get to activate more things. You get to the threshold now where with the 8th Mana Swords, it's Escanta activation plus lead up Cryptic Command.
Which is exactly what Andrew has. Hoogland's hand is 2 lands. And he can activate, and this might be a bluff. I actually like this from Hoogland. I think if Andrew activates Colonnade to block, Hoogland loses. He's got nothing. But the problem is Andrew's just not wanting to risk it. Right? If you activate Colonnade, well, I guess how much are you risking if you activate Colonnade to block?
So it costs 5 to activate. It means you can't Cryptic or Escanta. Honestly, just bouncing Treetop Village is such a big deal with the Cryptic Command that I like the line that Elenbogen is taking.
Of Escanting instead?
He also next turn gets the option to activate the Colonnade and then leave up Cryptic or Escanta activation. Or this, just find the answer off the activation in the first place.
And then just cast it. Okay. Well, Cryptic Command is down this turn. Unfortunately for Hoogland, his hand has 2 copies of Verdant Catacombs.
And he doesn't really have much that would be highly impactful to leverage here. Even if he had Liliana to the Veil, Elenbogen would go to his turn, fire up the Colonnade, clear the Liliana. The best possible... He doesn't have the mana, though. He can't cast Nissa Vital Force. That'd be his best permanent here.
Tireless Tracker? Tireless Tracker, fetch land.
That's fine.
It's like... Yeah, that's like... I'm trying to think what the worst case scenarios for Elenbogen.
Yep.
That might be it, and that's beatable.
Yep. Yeah, that would not be the worst. But he's got nothing.
Yeah, now things are looking like they may run away. Andrew passes. If Hoogland can't make the way in the top 8, it might fall to Ketter. Hoogland drawing Inquisition of Kozilek. Elenbogen, top 4, 2 copies of Logic Knot. Sure, a hard counter. Sign me up.
Yeah, pretty much just counterspell in the modern format.
And Elenbogen's going to pass.
Hoogland picks up Tarmogoyf, but definitely too little too late. He's kind of trying to set up for a turn where he has a bunch of different sources of action, leading with the Inquisition, cast some other spells, but the longer he waits, Elenbogen gets more activations off the Escanta.
Right, these things don't get better.
Now, Elenbogen did miss on that turn, but that doesn't happen too often.
And that's fine. Passes again. Hoogland down to 14.
And Elenbogen is just in no rush.
Right.
You could get into a situation where he starts activating Celestial Colonnade, tries to clear the finish line that way. He's much more inclined to just land a Jace the Mind Sculptor, another copy of Teferi, and just go to town that way. And Hoogland just drawing another swamp for the turn.
Yeah. Elenbogen's going to go ahead and keep Cat using as Kanta. I believe Hoogland has a Tarmogoyf. So he's got a threat. I mean, but this, as Kanta's a nice card.
Yeah, it's not a bad one.
End step Snapcaster from Elenbogen. Oh, Snapcast and Opt, but it gets a card into play. It's a threat. That's some damage. Andrew draws. We go back.
And this, unlike the Colonnade, doesn't require him investing any mana at sorcery speed.
Swing of 2. Hoogland to 12. And sure, more cards.
Can never have too many.
Hoogland, more swamps.
Ugh.
Let's Kanta again.
And this is just one of those things. Assassin's Trophy is a card that makes Golgari midrange better, but in a way that makes the game go long.
Yeah, I mean, the things that's exciting about it are it against lands specifically, I know on my side I like to play Valakut decks. Assassin's Trophies, that printing hurts. This was one of our good matchups. It's maybe still good, but not by as much.
Right. And then if you wanted to make the game go long, Jeskai Control is going to draw way more extra cards than you are.
Yeah, I mean, as Kanta and Teferi made sure of that.
Yep.
And Elenbogen, remember, he has 3 Ancestral Visions on the sideboard.
Yeah, those are not hurting the cause.
Yeah, some more cards. It's a Jace. I don't know. Whatever he wants. That's going to be... He can draw that.
Yeah.
At some point, he can Colonnade Hoogland.
Doesn't even need to.
Yeah, need... Yeah, I suppose I said can, because, need's not a thing that exists here.
Right.
2 from Snapcaster Mage. Andrew, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. Good opportunity to go into the tank when you're 100 miles ahead.
I like to discard the Jace. Just show him.
Yeah.
Andrew says go.
Just cast the lightning bolt upstairs.
Field of Ruin from Hoogland. There we go. Now we can answer the Kanta.
Right on time.
Looking like next turn will be when Andrew he may go for lethal. We'll see. Here's his Field of Ruin. That's going to stop him from straight going for lethal. Unless Andrew has a Snapcaster in hand. We'll see.
A little bolt, snap, bolt. That would clean this up real nicely.
Yep.
Starting to attack into that hissing Quagmire, but that's not really a concern. Just trades with Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew can't leverage the mana advantage as hard as he would like because he's at 4. He doesn't really want to crack these Scalding Tarns ever.
Yeah. It's also just not in any kind of trouble.
And Clay Spicklemire picks up the win in Legacy. Ketter and Hoogland both looking for that trophy, but one of them needed to win to get there, and I don't think it's going to happen.
Nope, it's already a done deal. Kent Ketter has lost, and Hoogland's ready to concede. Cryptic Command coming off that it's gone to the Sunken Ruin. Jeff has seen enough.
And that's going to be picking up the cards. So after a 2-game slide, the team of Spicklemire, Elenbogen, and McVety do win the last round. That gets them back the 1 seed going into the top 8. Something they thought they had all but locked up. Actually, going into the round, they had slid into 2nd place. So they'll enter our elimination